the Spiders like to establish Saturday that wasn't well established at UVA?
Do we want to wait?
No, go ahead.
All right. Well, I think we got to run the ball better. It was hard treading, trying to get the run game going, but we've got to run it better, obviously, and so I think that's one thing. I think we got to, when we have opportunities to make plays, we have to make plays. We got to make sure the throw's there, the catch, those types of things. So, but we do have to establish the run game.
If I could just follow up by asking if there's any way to tell if the inability to establish a run game was more about Richmond or Virginia?
Maybe a little both, but probably, Virginia was stout. They had a bunch of people up there, and they got real good corners, and they challenged us to throw, and we had some opportunities, some we didn't, but that it was partly them, but probably partly us too.
Going back and looking at the tape, what did you like from Kevin Saturday, and what would you hope he can improve on this week?
There's probably a lot of improvement. After watching it, he did some good things, but also he missed some too, and that wasn't just him; it was other players. But I think Kevin knows that he has to play better than that, and he will. He's a good player, but there were a couple. We had legit shots on, and we didn't get it. We had a drop in the end zone that would have been a big play. But I do like Kevin's leadership. I like his arm strength, his mobility. He's going to play real well for us this year. Just looking back, and again, I think probably Virginia had a lot to say about that. But he'll be better.
Hey, Wes, do you think that part of that was rust? It's not usual that a junior redshirted the previous year. He hadn't played since 2016.
Could be, and I don't want to make it sound like he was awful out there. He did a lot of good things, but you want to make sure at that position that you're doing a lot of great things, and it's such a critical position for our offense, probably for any offense in the country, and we just got to make sure. I don't think he made. He had a couple poor throws that obviously he'd like to get back, but there were some that weren't real tough throws that we didn't get, and he's got to make those throws. He's got to do it.
What is in your mind the primary difference between the Patriot League and Colonial? There's a lot of crossover play this year, especially.
Well, I think the one thing that's kind of different is that they don't redshirt, so you'll see a lot of freshmen playing, and so they automatically, now on the front end it helps them, but on the back end it hurts them because they don't have a lot of fifth-year seniors. So in the CAA, we try to redshirt so we get more fifth-year seniors. They don't, and so they play a lot more freshmen. And so, that has its advantages and its disadvantages. They're, obviously they're better in their fourth year because they play their first year, but they don't get their fifth year. So I'd say that's a big difference in, in personnel and how we develop them and how they develop them. That may be something you didn't even know, did you? There you go. I'm giving you some nuggets today. That's good.
Hey, talking about the run game, do you feel any better about the physical situation in your offensive line? I know you were missing a couple guys. Is there a chance that it may look a little different personnel-wise Saturday?
Well, our offensive line played okay up front. They weren't the reason we didn't score touchdowns by any stretch of the imagination. But with that being said, we do get Taz Sumter back this week, which will help us with depth. And he's a real good player. How much he plays, will kind of be based on how he feels, but he's actually going to practice today. But it's nice to have him back to build a little bit of depth, and then in a week or so we'll get Jack Doherty back and have a lot more depth there. So, and then you can kind of start rolling people and keeping them fresh and those types of things because we feel good about 8 of our guys.
Any update on Xavier?
Xavier? Yeah, I mean, it doesn't look good for Xavier to play this year. He's going to have surgery in a couple weeks. Now, they really don't know what's wrong. I mean, they could go in there and really find nothing, or they could go find something and then. But I think either way, he's got a redshirt year available. So I think Xavier feels probably better about redshirt, and so the odds of us getting him back this year are very, very slim.
Coach, feel free to bypass this if you already answered this. But what, in your experience, do you see in terms of improvement on a team from week 1 to week 2, just from getting the game under your belt?
I'll bypass. We already answered that question. No, I'm just kidding you. That's a good question. You hope the one thing that in week 1, especially at a place that's, and again, I couldn't tell, was Virginia loud? I had my headsets on, so I really couldn't tell, to be honest with you. But, sometimes you get into that environment and you get some penalties, offsides, illegal procedures, illegal formations, and those didn't happen in the first game. And a lot of times that happens in the first game. And so I was proud of our guys for that. We handled the moment pretty good. There was I think we called timeout one time with the play clock going down. If you get in a game and you do that one time, I mean, that's a pretty good day's work too. So I feel good about our operation. I think as coaches, both sides of the ball and in special teams, we got to put our guys in better positions from week 1 to week 2. Give our guys better opportunities. I don't think this was the greatest coaching job we did in the first week. So we got to get better as coaches. We got to get our guys in better positions, but again, it was hard, and I don't want to make excuses for our defense and our defensive coaches, but it was hard because we really had no idea, what to expect other than he was going to run the ball, and they had that element, and that's that made it tough.
What do you expect from Fordham offensively?
Well, he came from Yale, so we've got a lot of Yale film from last year and then the UNC. They're pretty balanced. I mean, they didn't get the run established very well against UNC Charlotte. Charlotte did a really nice job against them, but they're probably going to be balanced. They'll take their shots. They got a wide out that's really, really good. They got a tight end that's really, really good. Those guys, I'm sure they're going to try to get the ball in their hands as much as they can. I think the wideout had 6 catches for over 100 yards last week, so he's dangerous. So, and the back's really good. I mean, the back, I believe, was like the Gatorade Player of the Year coming out of high school in his state. So they're talented, no question about that.
Do you have a sort of a big picture on the next couple of weeks before you get into league play and what you'd like to accomplish in terms of, other than winning, just getting it together?
Well, just somehow, some way get a win this week. I mean, that's probably the only objective. However it transpires, the only objective we got is to win this football game. And whatever we got to do to win it, whoever we got to play to win it, whatever plays we got to call, whatever we got to do defensively, somehow, some way, we just got to come away with a win. And I'm sure Fordham's feeling the same way. I mean, they need one too.
With the absence of Xavier, what do you look for from Deontez and also Gordon to, improve the running game this week?
I'll start by saying they're both really good players. I mean, we were very, very fortunate that we had, some good running backs. Sometimes you lose a guy and you fall flat off the cliff, but those guys are good. Jay Palmer's been a good player. We got 2 freshman backs that are fantastic, And so I expect them to just carry on, but they can't do it on their own. But you gotta eventually, if you want to get 200 yards rushing, you're going to have to break a tackle or two. You're going to have to make somebody miss. It just doesn't come because you blocked it all perfectly. And you saw that at Charlotte. Charlotte didn't really grind them out, drive them down the field, 12-play drives. It was, their back popped too. I mean, when he pulled out of a tackle and went 70. They threw a little screen to him, and they kind of over-pursued. He pulled out of another tackle and went 70 to the 3-yard line. And you have to have those things. Great backs will do that. Great backs, if you got a guy that's got 160 yards after the day's over, probably 100 of it was because they made a guy miss or broke a tackle or bunch of tackles, and that's what we need those guys to do.